Hi everyone, my name is Emily Brady and I am the Senior Director of SEO at Scorpion, where I've been doing SEO for small businesses, franchises, and pretty much everything in between for about 8 years now. And today I'm going to be talking about something that is very near and dear to my SEO heart, and that is SEO challenges for small businesses, and more importantly, how to overcome them. So why is this topic important? Why is it something that I think is relevant and something that I'm passionate about? There are a lot of reasons for this, but I'm going to call out two of them for you guys today. The first one is small businesses are important. SMBs have a direct and positive impact on their local communities. And as SEOs, when we get to help those small businesses, we get to share in that success. And that's really cool. Some of my favorite clients are SMBs because they're doing good things in their local community, and I get to be a part of that. So that's one of the reasons I think that SMB SEO is important, and it's important to talk about our challenges. But another reason is, as an industry, as a digital marketing, as an SEO industry, we tend to favor enterprise and big data when it comes to best practices. Now, this is no shade on enterprise and big data. Big data is fun. Working on large websites is really fun. It's great to have a site that has a ton of URLs and lots of technical things you can fix. But those enterprise SEO strategies don't always translate to small business websites. When we're dealing with smaller websites, we just don't have the same amount of information. So big data isn't always realistic, right? I think that also, as an SEO industry, we tend to equate SMB SEO with local very often. And then we also tend to equate local with Google My Business. Now, there's definitely a correlation between all three of those things, but in reality, SMB is a lot more than local, and local is a lot more than just GMB. So today I'm going to be talking about that space in between local and GMB, but it's more than GMB. And I think a lot of the challenges we encounter are actually outside of GMB as well when we're specifically talking about small business SEO. So that's another reason I think it's important. But let's go ahead and start diving into those specific challenges. So the first challenge you're going to encounter doing SEO for small businesses is the fact that the data isn't that big. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And the way I like to think about this is small businesses just don't have the luxury of big data. Big data is a luxury, and small businesses that typically have small websites don't have it. Even if you're working agency side and you have access to a lot of different accounts, hundreds or maybe even thousands of small business websites, that aggregate data isn't unique to a specific website. And that means that, again, you're still working with small data at the end of the day. This also means you're going to end up making less informed decisions, which is kind of a bummer because we are a data-driven industry. SEOs love data. It helps us understand what we should do next. But when you don't have a lot of data, your information or your decisions are just going to be less informed. And that's just the truth of it. It's also a lot harder to split test at scale. If the majority of your website traffic is going to the homepage, it's going to be kind of challenging to split test technical changes and things like that effectively and actually have a good baseline to understand the outcome and make an accurate recommendation. This means that you're also going to be trusting your gut a little bit more often. I very often find myself saying, in my experience, XYZ is most likely the best option for your business, but you're not actually going to have the historic data for that account to back up your decision every single time, just because you don't have big data. So what this really boils down to is you just have a larger margin for error. And that's kind of one of the primary challenges that SEOs face when they're working on small business websites. Another challenge is the fact that it's hard to stand out. And what I mean by that is originality and branding can be really challenging for small businesses. Google loves entities, right? An entity has to be more, or a business has to be more than the sum of the URLs that make up its website. But when you're a one-track plumbing company, that can be really, really challenging to be a brand or be an entity, whatever that means, right? And even from an on-site perspective, when you're thinking about the way that you talk about the services that a business provides or the content and how it's structured, there are only so many ways that you can describe HVAC or plumbing services. And if you look around at competitors, they're probably all talking about it in the exact same way. So that originality aspect can be really difficult, even though your content is perfectly unique and would come out completely clean in Copyscape. And something I've noticed as well over the years is that when you ask business owners, okay, what makes your business unique specifically? What makes you stand out from your competitors? A lot of the time, they give the same answer to those questions. So their selling points are often very similar too. An example of this, and this is just a recent search that I completed, is I searched for plumber Santa Clarita. And what we're looking at here are the selling points from the 4 websites that showed up in the 10 blue links on page 1. So those would be the businesses I would be interested in hiring. I opened up their sites and now I've listed all of their selling points that showed up for their organic landing page. And if you look closely, what you'll notice is 3 out of 4 businesses have 0 unique selling points. They all offer 24/7 emergency service. All of them were pretty easy to get in contact with. You know, they had a chat feature, contact form, something like that, or click to call. Most of them, 2 out of 4, were licensed. Only website number 3 had unique selling points. They said that they would beat any quote. They said they were affordable, which is great. And then they also said, we'll be there in 15 to 40 minutes, which is probably just a different way of saying 24/7 emergency service. But from a consumer mindset, I found that really appealing. So I would count that as a unique selling point. But really what this illustrates is that it is hard for small businesses to stand out when they're all providing the same service. Another challenge you'll encounter working with small businesses as an SEO is education. Now, this concept of SEO and education being very intertwined is not new. This is not an original thought. If you are an SEO, you are an educator. Whether you're working with a paid ads team or you're working with a developer, we spend a lot of time telling other people what we do and why we do it. We're used to explaining things, but in the small business space, education becomes even more important. And the reason for this is because every business owner has a different understanding of what SEO is and what it means. And very often, you're not dealing with an internal marketing person. You're not dealing with a team who can then translate what you're doing to the ultimate stakeholder, the business owner. Very often, you are dealing with the business owner, and every business owner is going to have a different concept of what search should be doing for their business. So you're going to have fewer internal SEO advocates. You're going to have different ideas about what SEO success is. And what this kind of boils down to is it means that buy-in is going to be harder to obtain. And that can be a real challenge for us as SEOs because buy-in is so important. We make recommendations, and in order for them to be effective, we have to actually get them implemented on the site. So buy-in can be difficult as well. Now, I don't want to focus too much just on the challenges because the solutions are the more exciting part. So let's go ahead and dive right into some solutions. All right, solution number 1, tips to overcome small data. Now, I wish I had some secret sauce about how we can create big data for every small website, but that's not true. Unfortunately, I wish I had a secret sauce, but I don't. But what I can recommend is that instead of wishing that we had more data, just make your data work harder for you. And one way you can do that is by tracking everything. Something that I notice is a lot of small businesses come to us and they don't have Google Tag Manager installed yet, which means, you know, you can look at traffic, you can maybe have an idea of how many people are calling every single month, but you don't have that really granular information about from which page are they clicking on the phone number, where are they most likely to fill out the contact form, and things like phone clicks, contact forms, and chat interactions are going to be really, really useful because that will give you information about your on-site conversions so that you can measure how well your organic traffic is converting and what SEO is actually doing for the business. At what point did my search engine optimization turn into dollar signs? So being able to track those on-site conversions is really, really helpful. It also helps you understand the overlap between different channels. So let's say X number of leads were attributed to organic. If I'm tracking my phone clicks and contact forms, I can actually go into analytics then and see, okay, but how many of those conversions originally started as a paid lead, which is invaluable information to give a business owner to show them the value of not only your SEO, but how SEO plays nicely with other marketing channels. Also, using Tag Manager can help you get better insight from GMB. Now, I like GMB Insights. I know it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you can log into your GMB dashboard and you can see, okay, how many people are visiting the website, how many people are calling us, how many people are getting direction requests and things like that. But if you're also tracking on-site conversions with Tag Manager, you can look and see, okay, those people who entered the site from Google My Business, how many of them converted and from where on the site did they convert? So really just taking that same data and being able to drill down farther is extremely useful and very valuable. Another tip that I like to give is always use UTM codes on Google My Business wherever possible. So the primary places the primary places that you're going to use your UTM codes is going to be your main website link, your appointment link, which will most likely link to a contact form or a contact us style page. You can also add UTM codes to links from your product listings. So it's kind of funny to think of products for a small business that offers a service, but this is available for most small businesses on Google My Business. And basically you can just add an image, a description of your product or service, and then a link back to your website. And if you add a UTM code, you can see specifically how many people entered your site by clicking on that product. And then finally, you're going to want to add UTM codes to your Google My Business posts. Now, GMB posts have gotten a lot of attention in the SEO industry. I think they're great. I love creating them. They're a great way to advertise coupons and specials and generate leads directly from your Google My Business listing. However, they can also generate traffic to your site. So if you incorporate UTM codes that allow you to differentiate between each individual post, you can see which of those specials is bringing in the most traffic. Is it creating any on-site conversions? All right, an example of what you can do with this on-site conversion data by integrating Tag Manager. So what we're looking at here is in Google Analytics, this is the top conversion paths report. So we've hooked up analytics to Tag Manager, we have phone clicks being tracked, we have contact forms, things like that. And now what we can see is how many of those conversions came from specific channels and how did those channels overlap. So as we can see, organic search is doing great. Yay, go SEO. Beneath that, we have direct. And now you can see number 3, we have organic conversions that originally were paid searches. So this is really important when you're having conversations about how, paid and organic interact with each other. Maybe a business owner is considering decreasing their paid budget because organic appears to be bringing in the most money. But in that situation, you could come back with this type of report and say, okay, if we decrease paid by X amount, we can expect to see a decrease in our organic leads as well. And that can help you make a more informed decision. So what this does is it actually helps you lessen that margin for error. That's kind of an innate issue when you're working with smaller data. Another thing that's really important is to identify your outliers. So when you're working with smaller data sets, data outliers can seem more extreme and they can really start to sway your data in the wrong direction if you're not careful to get rid of as many as possible. So one way you can do this is just pay attention to seasonality. So seasonality, the easiest way to think about it is in a plumbing and HVAC realm, people tend to need AC repair in the summer and they tend to need furnace repair in the winter or heater repair, depending on where you are located. But this is actually something that applies to virtually every business type that I have worked with. Family law attorneys, for example, tend to see a decrease in leads in December because people aren't interested in getting divorced around the holidays, and then an increase in January. So if you are an expert in not only SEO, but the business vertical you're working with, then you are going to be able to understand how those natural fluctuations throughout the year are interacting with the actual baseline. So did we get more traffic because of a change that you made on the website, or did we get more traffic because more people are interested or more people need your service at this point? Another way you can deal with seasonality is to report both month over month and year over year. So compare your traffic from this month to last, and then also compare your traffic and leads to the previous year. So you're doing a seasonality side-by-side comparison as well. That can eliminate a lot of confusion. Another thing that you're going to do is also pay attention to the overlap between paid and organic and direct. If you're running an offline campaign or you increase paid budget, just knowing how those different channels interact with each other can help you understand your baseline a little bit better, so that you know if you see an increase in traffic or leads for organic, was it because we increased paid or was it because we did XYZ on the website? And then finally, this might seem kind of silly, but it's very important. Please filter yourself out of Google Analytics. Now, this is a pretty simple process. You can just filter your IP so that your traffic doesn't show up in analytics as an actual website visitor. And an example of how this can kind of go wrong or what can happen if you don't do that is in the conversion, the top conversion funnel report. You can see here, we have a bunch of conversions and then some of them look pretty normal, paid to organic to referral. Okay, I'll buy that. Paid to social, I'll buy that, someone converted. But what I am not going to buy is that someone visited the website, 70 times as direct traffic, and then went to a social network, and then came through paid ads, then referral, then direct 13 more times, and then converted. That doesn't sound like a customer journey to me. That sounds like someone, maybe me, who was working on the website and needed to test a contact form at some point and didn't filter their IP address. So again, this is especially important when you're working with small businesses because you have smaller data sets. These kind of outliers can start to sway your data. So filter yourself out. If you have a large team working on the site, you can connect to a VPN and do that really easily. But however you decide to do it, just be aware that you can actually become an outlier and influence things on the website and in Google Analytics. All right, so solution number 2, tips to make SMBs stand out. All right, so you can't be a household name. You're just not going to be a household name if you're a small business, but you can beat competitors. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is understand who your competitors are. So take a look at the local landscape, see who is providing the same service that the business you're doing SEO for is, and then identify those as your competitors. And make your goal not so much to be a national brand so much as it is to be the best and one up those immediate competitors, because that's how branding is actually going to translate into more business for the small business. So the real goal here is just to create aggregate value that your competitors don't have. So take a look at everyone, get all your cards on the table, understand their content, understand their specials, understand their selling points, and then just make a list and one up all of those things. And that's how you're going to become a truly original and outstanding brand within the local sphere. An example of this is a client of mine who, like many plumbing and HVAC companies at the outset of COVID, experienced a pretty big drop in leads, right? People were afraid to have technicians and strangers coming into their home, and understandably so. So what they did is they started implementing these free virtual assessments, which is actually something that their competitors were doing as well, right? You can call us and you can get on the phone with a technician and we'll help you diagnose the issue, et cetera, et cetera. But this company took it one step further, and instead of just saying, hey, we'll eliminate that first visit from a technician by talking to you on the phone, what they did is they also said, we will give you free time with our techs to try to find a DIY solution to completely avoid coming out to your house at all, and we'll do it for free. And this was really, really effective for them. So at the beginning of April, we implemented this and really started pushing these free virtual assessments. We'll try to help you find a solution, get on the phone with us. We are here for you. Your safety is priority. And they saw a 42% uptick in on-site conversions within the first month, which is great. And the thing I want to point out about this is you don't have to be a national brand to implement this kind of strategy. This is just a matter of understanding the local landscape and then doing better than those around you. And then it translates into SEO conversions. This is organic traffic. We're pushing through Google posts and other avenues, and it really resonated with their customers. A quick shout out for local PR. Local PR can win too. Local PR is not dead. I know it looks very different now, right? You can't sponsor a 5K necessarily and shake hands at an event and generate leads that way, but there still are charities, things like that businesses can get involved in, can support, can donate to, and you can still create value for the local community, even though a lot of those charities and events are remote at this point. And you can still get links from those types of events as well. You just have to look a little bit harder, for those that are now able to be digital opposed to actually having a physical gathering. That said, don't be afraid to go after long tail keywords as well. So a lot of small businesses aren't going to have the budget or really the capability to generate the original research and linkable infographics that are going to be distributed across major media channels, right? But you still can create great value with long form content targeting these long tail how-to question-based searches. And while that type of traffic might not get you local traffic that converts to leads, it can create links, and it definitely creates opportunities for featured snippets, for voice search, and just a lot of traffic. It really can build the overall authority of the website through supporting content. So local PR can help you win still, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to go after those long tail keywords with your blog content and whatnot as well, because that can be valuable and it can pay off in the long term. All right, so solution number 3, tips for SEO education. Focus on communication and not teaching. So when you're working with small business owners, it's really important to have a mindset of communication. How can I best communicate with them, opposed to just correcting them when they have a misunderstanding about what you do, right? Because you're working with that ultimate stakeholder, I think that building a relationship is extremely important. And one way you can do this is by understanding their communication style. So how do they communicate with you? It's simply an issue of, or it's simply a matter of observing and understanding how they communicate, and then how can you best communicate with them to kind of bridge that gap between what your job is as an SEO and why it's important, and then their understanding of what organic search is and why it's important. Another suggestion is to focus on the why. Always focus on the motivation behind your work. When you're getting buy-in, focus on the big picture. Why is this important? Not just, we need to fix XYZ technical issues on the site, we need to add this page of content, but focus on why you need to do those things. It can go a long way. And then finally, get to know the business, get to know them as people, understand what makes them tick. That's not only a relational thing, not just because it's more fun to work with businesses that you like, but because it's going to help you market them better. A couple examples of how you can identify communication styles. So this is just a very practical list of questions to ask yourself, right? People communicate in many different ways, but if you're aware of these things, it can help you serve your clients better. It can help you aid in their education, aid in their understanding of SEO better. So just a couple examples. Do they like in-depth reporting, or do they like quick overviews? Do they prefer phone calls? Do they prefer email? Some people love reading long emails. Some people will never read long emails. Other people would prefer a quick phone call. So just be aware of their communication style and accommodate it when necessary. And then another really important one is, are they concerned more with the work you completed or the results you got? And then customize your reporting. In some cases, they'll want both, right? But maybe they're not the type that wants a huge detailed list of everything that was implemented. Maybe they just want those results. And you can save time and then spend more time actually implementing strategies, opposed to tracking every minor change for them. So again, communication styles, not a hard technical SEO skill. It's definitely a soft skill, but it can make your job a lot easier. It can help you build those partnerships with the businesses that you work with. So I want to share a few thoughts about empathy, right? So we're talking about communication styles, and communication is much more effective when you are empathetic. And I think that as an industry, as SEOs, we lean so hard on our technical skill set because we love to learn new things, and learning how, knowing, oh, this is how your canonical should be, and I can talk about redirects all day long, and I'm so great at keyword research, or whatever your specialty is. Those are all great things, but empathy is also very important because it helps you better communicate your work. It helps you get buy-in. It helps you understand your clients. And I would say that when you're working with small businesses, it's even more important because you are working with that ultimate stakeholder. So don't view empathy just as something that's a nice skill to have that can go on top of your real technical skill set. I would say that empathy is part of your job if you're working with small businesses and doing SEO, just because it can really help you bridge that gap between the business owner's understanding of what they need from you, and then also your ability to educate them and help them learn and show your value. So with that, I'd like to just give you guys a couple quick takeaways. If there's nothing that you take away from this talk today, take away these 4 things. First, make your data work harder for you. You're never going to have big data, but set up tracking so that you have more granular data on your site. Additionally, get rid of those outliers as much as possible. Additionally, when it comes to branding, outsmart your competitors. Not everyone. Don't treat local branding like national branding. It's just not going to work, but you can one-up your immediate competitors, and that can pay you back quite well over time. It's a very effective strategy. Also, SEOs are educators, especially in the SMB space. We spend a lot of time talking about what we do, but when you're working directly with business owners, that can take a totally different approach sometimes. So really focus on those communication styles and focus on partnering with the businesses that you are working with. And then finally, SEO for small businesses is difficult, so give yourself some credit. If you are an SEO and you work with small businesses, know that I respect you. I understand that there are a lot of challenges, and I hope that some of the things I've gone over today are some practical ways that you can not only, understand those challenges, but also overcome them. So with that, thank you guys so much. Again, my name is Emily Brady. There is my Twitter handle for you guys. I am at Plotboilers on Twitter. If you ever want to continue this conversation, just hit me up. I love talking about SEO. I love talking about small business SEO and local. And with that, I will look forward to seeing you guys in the Q&A. Thank you very much.